My sister secretly rented out our disabled father's house while he's in rehab. The tenant stopped paying and won't leave. Dad doesn't know. I, 31F, am shaking as I type this. I've been lurking on this sub for weeks trying to figure out what to do, and I think I've finally reached the point where I need to lay the whole thing out and ask for help. This is long. I'm sorry. But every detail matters. My father, Jim, 66M, had a massive stroke 14 months ago. I was at work when I got the call. I'm a claims adjuster at State Farm here in Sacramento, been doing it for about 4 years now, make $59,000 a year, nothing glamorous but it's stable and I'm good at it. I was reviewing a water damage claim on my second monitor when my phone lit up with a 916 number I didn't recognize. A nurse at UC Davis Medical Center told me my father had been found on his kitchen floor by a neighbor. Left side paralysis. Couldn't speak for the first 11 days. He's been at Elk Grove post-acute care ever since. It's a long-term rehab facility down in Elk Grove, about a 20-minute drive from my apartment. I rent a one-bedroom in Midtown Sacramento, on L Street, $1,720 a month, which eats up a big portion of my paycheck, but it's close enough that I can get to him. I visit every Wednesday after work and every Sunday morning. I drive my 2018 Hyundai Elantra down 99 with the windows cracked because the AC takes about 10 minutes to kick in, and I stop at Jimboy's Tacos on the way. Every single time. Chicken soft taco combo. That's what he wants. That's the only thing that makes him smile anymore, this completely childlike grin when I walk in with that greasy paper bag. He can barely grip the taco with his right hand. Sometimes I hold it for him. He chews slow. He says, "Meggie, nobody makes a taco like Jimboy's," and I say, "Nobody, Dad," and we sit there and pretend everything is fine. He can speak now, mostly. His left side is still significantly paralyzed. His left arm is essentially immobile. He can take a few steps with a walker and a physical therapist on each side, but he tires out fast. His doctors have been careful with their language. They say things like, every patient's recovery timeline is different, and we're cautiously optimistic about continued progress. But his primary care physician pulled me aside 2 months ago and told me, gently, that I should start thinking about long-term care options. That he might never be able to live independently again. He doesn't know that. He talks about going home all the time. The house. God, the house. My dad owns a 3-bedroom Craftsman on T Street in Curtis Park. If you know Sacramento, you know Curtis Park, tree-lined streets, beautiful old homes, the kind of neighborhood where people walk their dogs at dusk and wave at you from their porches. Dad bought that house in 1997 for $168,000. It's worth about $715,000 now, maybe more with the way the Sacramento market has been. He raised me and my older sister Kelsey there. I learned to ride a bike on that street. He refinished the hardwood floors himself one summer. I remember him on his hands and knees with a belt sander, sawdust in his eyebrows, classic rock blasting from a paint-splattered radio. He built a treehouse in the backyard oak tree. It's still standing. The wood is gray and weathered now, but the structure is solid because that's how my dad builds things. Solid. He tells me about that house every time I visit. When I get better, I'm going to fix that leaky faucet in the hall bathroom first thing. He says it the same way every time, word for word, like it's a mantra. Like if he says it enough times the universe will make it true. Now let me tell you about my sister Kelsey, 35F. Kelsey lives in Oakland. She works as a bartender at a cocktail bar in the Temescal neighborhood, makes about $55,000 a year with tips on a good year. Kelsey has a 5-year-old son named Oliver from a previous relationship with a guy she met at a music festival in Joshua Tree. The father is not in the picture and hasn't been since Oliver was about 18 months old. I love my sister. I need to say that before I say everything else, because it's going to get hard to believe. I love her. But Kelsey has always been the wild one. She dropped out of San Jose State after 3 semesters. She moved to Portland for a year to work at a vegan cafe and find herself. She came back. She did a stint in Bali, stayed at a hostel, taught English, posted a lot of sunset photos, came back broke. She has never held a job longer than 18 months. She's charming and beautiful and people love her instantly, and she leaves a trail of unfinished things behind her everywhere she goes. Our dad has bailed her out financially more times than I can count. A car payment here. First and last month's rent there. A plane ticket home from wherever she'd landed that time. After Dad's stroke, once we got past the acute phase and it became clear he wasn't coming home soon, the question came up, what do we do about the house? It couldn't just sit there indefinitely. Someone needed to check on it, water the plants, keep up the yard, make sure the pipes didn't freeze in winter, collect the mail. Kelsey volunteered. She had a key. She said she'd drive up from Oakland every couple of weeks and keep an eye on things. I said okay. What else was I going to say? I was already spending every spare hour either at the rehab facility or on the phone with Medicare and insurance companies and social workers. I was drowning in the bureaucracy of keeping my father alive and cared for. I was grateful someone else would handle the house. I am an idiot. Update 1. What I found 3 months ago. 3 months ago, on a Sunday evening, I was driving back from visiting Dad at Elk Grove Post-Acute. I usually take the freeway, but there was construction on 99, so I cut through surface streets, which took me right down T Street through Curtis Park, right past Dad's house. I almost didn't look. I was tired and my eyes were puffy from crying in the parking lot after the visit. Dad had had a bad day. His speech was slurred worse than usual and he'd gotten frustrated and knocked his Jim Boy's taco off the tray table and just sat there staring at the mess on the floor like it was the saddest thing he'd ever seen. I cleaned it up and told him it was fine. I'd bring another one Wednesday, and he just said, "I'm sorry, Meggie," over and over. So I was driving and I glanced over and something was wrong. There was a car in the driveway. A white Dodge Charger with aftermarket rims, big, flashy, chrome things that caught the streetlight. That car did not belong to anyone I knew. The blinds in the front windows were different. Dad had these cream-colored linen blinds that Mom picked out before she passed in 2011, and now there were cheap black plastic Venetian blinds. And there was a Ring doorbell mounted next to the front door. My father has never owned a Ring doorbell. My father barely owns a cell phone. I parked across the street. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I sat there for probably 3 minutes just staring at the house trying to come up with an explanation that wasn't what I was already thinking. I walked up to the porch. The porch light was different too, one of those LED motion sensor things. I knocked. A man answered the door. Mid-30s, heavy-set, wearing a tank top and basketball shorts. He had a neck tattoo, some kind of script lettering I didn't read. The house behind him, I could see past him into the living room, looked nothing like my father's house. There was a massive leather sectional where Dad's old green couch used to be. A huge flat screen on the wall. The hardwood floors Dad had refinished by hand had a rug thrown over them, some cheap shaggy thing. "Yeah. Can I help you?" he said. "This is my father's house," I said. He didn't blink. Not hostile, not friendly. Just matter of fact. "I rent this place. I got a lease. Talk to Kelsey. His name is Victor. He's been living in my father's house for, at that point, 9 months. Kelsey rented it to him for $2,800 a month. Cash only. No background check. No property management company. No consultation with me or anyone else. Just a printed lease agreement. I've since seen a copy that Kelsey signed as property manager. She listed herself as the authorized agent for the property. She is not an authorized agent for anything. She doesn't have power of attorney. Dad never gave her permission to rent the house. Dad doesn't know the house is occupied. 9 months at $2,800 per month. That's $25,200 in cash. My sister collected $25,000 in rent on a house she doesn't own while our father lies in a rehab facility in Elk Grove eating tacos I bring him and dreaming about fixing a leaky faucet. Update 2. The confrontation with Kelsey. I called Kelsey that night from the parking lot of a Safeway on Freeport because I didn't trust myself to drive home. She picked up on the 4th ring. I could hear bar noise in the background. She was at work. "Kelsey, who is Victor?" Silence. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. "How did you find out?" Not denial. Not confusion. Just logistics. Already calculating. I drove past the house. "What did you do?" She asked if she could call me back after her shift. I said no. She stepped outside. I heard the background noise drop away, replaced by traffic sounds and the low thump of bass from somewhere. Her explanation came out smooth. Rehearsed, almost. Like she'd been preparing for this conversation for months. "Dad's not coming back, Megan. You know that." "I know that." "You heard what the doctors said. The house was sitting empty, losing value. Empty houses get broken into, they get vandalized, the pipes freeze in winter, the yard goes to hell, and the neighbors start complaining and then the city gets involved. I found a tenant. I've been maintaining the property. And I'm using the money to take care of Oliver. Daycare isn't free, Megan. I'm a single mother. What would you rather, the house sits empty and deteriorates and gets broken into?" I let her finish. Then I said, very carefully, because I wanted her to hear every word, "You're collecting $2,800 a month on a house you don't own while Dad eats Jim Boy's tacos in a rehab facility and talks about coming home." She told me I was being emotional. She told me I was being unfair. She said she'd been paying the property taxes. She hadn't, I checked. She said she'd put money into repairs. She hadn't, I checked that too. She said she was going to tell me eventually. She said she was going to tell Dad when the time was right. I asked her where the $25,200 was. She got quiet. A different kind of quiet than before. This was the quiet of someone who knows they've been caught and is deciding how much truth to release. It's gone, Megan. Oliver needed things. I needed things. I had credit card debt. I'm not sitting on a pile of cash somewhere. $25,000. Gone. Spent on what, exactly, I don't fully know. But here's what I do know. Kelsey posted Instagram photos from a long weekend in Cabo San Lucas 3 months into the rental. She bought a new car, a lease on a Mazda CX-5, right around month 4. Oliver goes to a Montessori preschool in Oakland that costs about $2,100 a month. She got a new tattoo, a big floral piece on her forearm, which runs at least $800 from any decent artist. She's been buying rounds at the bar where she works, according to a mutual friend who bartends nearby. My sister funded a lifestyle upgrade with rent money collected on our disabled father's house. The house he built a treehouse in. A house where he sanded the floors on his hands and knees. A house he thinks is sitting empty, waiting for him, like a dog waiting by the door. Update 3. Now it gets worse, the Victor problem. Here's where this whole situation goes from infuriating to genuinely nightmarish. 2 months ago, Victor stopped paying rent. According to Kelsey, he paid for the first 7 months without issue, cash, on time, no problems. Then he missed month 8. Kelsey texted him. He said he'd get it to her by the following week. He didn't. She went to the house to confront him. He told her through the Ring doorbell, the irony, that he'd had some financial setbacks and needed time. Month 9. Nothing. Kelsey tried again. This time Victor's tone changed. He told her he had a valid lease, he was a legally protected tenant under California law, and that if she tried to force him out he'd make it a legal thing. He was right. And this is where my professional background actually makes things worse, because I understand exactly how bad this is. Under California tenant protection laws, the Tenant Protection Act of 2019, AB 1482, and various Sacramento County ordinances, evicting a tenant, even one who isn't paying rent, is a prolonged, expensive process. You need to serve proper notice. You need to file an unlawful detainer lawsuit. The tenant can respond, request a trial, file motions. If there are any procedural errors in the filing, it gets kicked back and you start over. In Sacramento right now, with the court backlog, an uncontested eviction takes 3 to 4 months minimum. A contested one, 6 to 12 months. Legal fees run $8,000 to $15,000, sometimes more. Victor knows this. Victor, I've come to learn, has done this before. A friend of mine, Sarah, who's a real estate agent specializing in East Sacramento and Curtis Park, did some digging for Maine. Victor has a pattern. He finds properties being rented informally, no management company, no corporate landlord, just individuals renting out family homes, and he moves in, pays for a while to establish tenancy, and then stops paying and dares the landlord to go through the legal process. He's essentially a professional squatter who uses the legal system as a shield. And here's the latest twist. Victor has filed a complaint with the Sacramento Housing Code Enforcement Office. He's claiming the house has habitability issues, problems with plumbing, electrical, heating. Sarah told me this is a classic delay tactic. It triggers a municipal inspection process, and California law prohibits eviction proceedings while active habitability complaints are being investigated. It can add months to the timeline. So here's the situation, laid out plainly. My father Jim owns the house. He doesn't know any of this is happening. He thinks it's sitting empty, waiting for him. My sister Kelsey illegally rented the house without authorization, power of attorney, or Jim's knowledge. She collected $25,200 in rent. She spent it all. She has no savings, no assets, and makes $55,000 a year bartending. Victor is living in the house, not paying rent, and actively gaming the legal system to stay as long as possible. He may have already caused damage to the property. Sarah drove by last week and said the yard is trashed. There's a broken window on the side that's been covered with cardboard, and there are multiple vehicles parked on what used to be Dad's lawn. I'm the only person trying to fix any of this. I make $59,000 a year. My rent is $1,720 a month. I drive a 2018 Elantra that needs new brakes. I do not have $8,000 to $15,000 for an eviction attorney. And last Sunday, Dad said to me, "How's the house looking, Meggie?" I had a dream I was sitting on the porch. I said, "It looks great, Dad." I went to the parking lot and threw up next to my car. Update 4. What I've done so far and the plan going forward. I spent 2 weeks after discovering all of this in a fog. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep properly. I'd lie in bed in my apartment on L Street staring at the ceiling fan and running the numbers over and over like I was adjusting a claim at work, except the claim was my family and there was no policy that covered this kind of loss. Then I did what I do professionally when a situation seems impossible. I started building a file. First, I contacted Sacramento County Legal Aid. They have a program for elder abuse cases. What Kelsey did, renting out a disabled, incapacitated person's property without authorization and pocketing the income, qualifies as financial elder abuse under California Welfare and Institutions Code Section 15610.30. A legal aid attorney named David Chen reviewed my summary and said, and I'm quoting him directly, "Your sister committed a felony." He said it flatly, no drama, just fact. Second, I started the process of obtaining emergency conservatorship over my father's financial affairs. Dad's cognitive function is intact. He's sharp, he knows who I am, he follows the news, he does the crossword in the Sacramento Bee that I bring him every Wednesday. But he's physically unable to manage his property or finances from a rehab bed. The conservatorship would give me legal authority to act on his behalf regarding the house. David Chen is helping me with the filing. The hearing is scheduled for next month in Sacramento County Superior Court. Third, I consulted with an eviction attorney, a woman named Patricia Navarro who specializes in Sacramento landlord-tenant disputes. Patricia reviewed the lease that Kelsey signed. Here's the critical thing. Kelsey had no legal authority to enter into a lease agreement on behalf of the property owner. She wasn't on the title. She didn't have power of attorney. She wasn't a licensed property manager. The lease may be void or voidable, which changes the legal calculus significantly. Patricia said that instead of going through a standard eviction process, we might be able to pursue an unlawful detainer action on the grounds that the lease itself is invalid, that Victor's tenancy was never legally established because the person who signed the lease had no authority to do so. This doesn't make it fast. California courts still protect occupants, even those with questionable lease agreements, and Victor will almost certainly contest everything. But it potentially shortens the timeline from 12 months to 4 or 5, and it gives us a much stronger legal position. Fourth, and this is the part that keeps me up at night, I have to decide what to do about Kelsey. David Chen laid out the options. I can file a police report for financial elder abuse. Sacramento County takes these cases seriously, especially with a clearly incapacitated victim and a clear paper trail. Kelsey could face felony charges. She could face jail time. She would almost certainly lose custody of Oliver, at least temporarily. Oliver is 5. He has big brown eyes and he calls me Auntie Meg, and the last time I saw him he showed me a drawing he made of a dinosaur riding a skateboard. He has no idea what his mother has done. He has no idea what any of this means. Patricia Navarro also told me I can file a civil lawsuit against Kelsey for conversion, essentially theft of rental income that belongs to the property owner. Even if Kelsey has no money now, a judgment follows her. It attaches to future income. It's a legal record of what she did. I haven't told my father anything yet. His doctors have advised against any significant emotional stress during this phase of his recovery. A stroke survivor's blood pressure and cardiac function are closely monitored. The wrong shock could cause another stroke. I am carrying this entire disaster alone, and I am lying to my father's face twice a week, and it is destroying me from the inside out. Update 5. Where things stand today. It's been 3 weeks since I started the legal process. Here's where everything stands. The conservatorship hearing is on the calendar. I've submitted declarations from 2 of Dad's physicians confirming his physical incapacity, a letter from the social worker at Elk Grove Post-Acute, and my own declaration detailing the situation with the house. Kelsey has been notified of the conservatorship petition. She hasn't responded, but she texted me 4 days ago, "You're really doing this? You're going to court over this? I'm your sister, Megan." I didn't respond. Patricia Navarro sent Victor a formal notice on behalf of the property owner, not a standard eviction notice, but a notice asserting that the lease is void due to the lack of authority of the signing party, and demanding that he vacate the premises within 30 days. Victor, predictably, did not vacate. His response, through a tenants' rights organization he's apparently connected with, was that he entered into the lease in good faith, paid rent in good faith, and is a legally protected occupant. Patricia told me this is exactly what she expected. We're filing the unlawful detainer action next week. The habitability complaint Victor filed is being investigated. A city inspector visited the property last Tuesday. I wasn't there, but Patricia's paralegal was. According to the inspection notes, the house has several legitimate maintenance issues. The hall bathroom faucet Dad always talked about fixing is now actively leaking and has caused some water damage to the subfloor. There's a crack in the foundation in the northeast corner that wasn't there before. The backyard, Dad's backyard, where the treehouse is overgrown with waist-high weeds. The inspector noted that the treehouse structure itself has visible damage, including a missing section of railing and what appears to be rot on the platform base. I read that part of the report at my desk at work and had to close my office door and sit with my head in my hands for 10 minutes. As for Kelsey, I filed the police report. I went back and forth on this for 2 weeks. I talked to my pastor. I talked to my therapist. I talked to Sarah, my real estate agent friend. I talked to David Chen. Everyone said something slightly different. My pastor said to pray on it. My therapist said to consider what outcome I actually wanted. Sarah said Kelsey needed consequences. David Chen said that filing the report didn't mean Kelsey would necessarily be arrested or charged. It creates a record, it supports the conservatorship petition, and it gives the district attorney's office the option to pursue charges if they determine it's warranted. I filed it on a Thursday morning before work. I sat in the parking lot of the Sacramento Police Department on Freeport Boulevard in my Elantra with the engine running for 45 minutes before I went in. The officer who took my statement was professional and kind. He asked a lot of questions. He didn't seem surprised by any of it. He told me elder financial abuse cases are more common than people think. Kelsey found out about the police report 2 days later. I don't know how. She called me 17 times in one afternoon. I didn't answer. She left one voicemail that I listened to once and then saved because Patricia told me to save everything. In the voicemail she was crying. She said, "Megan, please. Please don't do this. I made a mistake. I was trying to survive. I have a son. Please think about Oliver. Please. I think about Oliver every single day. Here is what I also think about every single day. My father in a hospital bed, struggling to grip a taco with his one good hand, telling me about the faucet he's going to fix when he gets home. Coming home to a house that currently has a stranger living in it, a trashed yard, a damaged treehouse, a cracked foundation, and water damage in the hall bathroom, the same faucet he kept saying he'd fix. I think about the fact that I'm 31 years old and I make $59,000 a year and I drive a car that needs brake work and I pay $1,720 a month for a one-bedroom apartment and I'm now paying legal fees I can't afford to undo damage my own sister caused to our father's property while he was too sick to stop her. I think about the fact that I am lying to my father and it is corroding something inside me that I'm not sure will ever heal. And I think about the fact that Kelsey went to Cabo while Dad was in rehab. I think about that a lot. So that's where I am. I have a conservatorship hearing next month. I have an unlawful detainer action being filed next week. I have a police report on file against my own sister. I have a 5-year-old nephew who might lose his mother. I have a father who thinks he's going home to a house that might not be the same house when he gets there. My questions for this sub. Once the conservatorship is granted, what additional steps should I take immediately to protect my father's assets? Is there any way to accelerate the unlawful detainer given the circumstances, specifically that the lease was signed by someone with zero legal authority? If Victor has caused damage to the property beyond normal wear and tear, can I pursue him separately for that, or does it fold into the unlawful detainer? Regarding Kelsey, if the DA does pursue charges, what's the realistic range of consequences she's looking at under California elder abuse statutes? Should I tell my father? His doctors say no stress. But it's his house and his money and he has a right to know. I don't know what's right anymore. I'm sorry this is so long. I've been carrying this alone for 3 months and typing it all out is the first time it's felt real on a page instead of just a weight in my chest. I'll update when I can. Edit. Thank you all for the responses. I want to clarify a few things people have asked in the comments. No, Kelsey and I are not on the title. The house is solely in Dad's name. No, there is no existing trust or estate plan. Dad never got around to it, which is part of why this is such a mess. And yes, I'm aware I should have checked on the house myself instead of trusting Kelsey. Believe me, I know that now. I lie in bed and think about that every single night. Edit 2. A few people have asked why I don't just tell Dad and let him make the decisions. I want to be clear. My father is cognitively competent. He's not confused. He's not diminished in that way. He's physically incapacitated. He can't get out of bed without 2 people helping him. He can't drive. He can't walk to the mailbox. The conservatorship is about his physical inability to manage his affairs, not about his mental capacity. Which honestly makes this harder, not easier, because he's fully capable of understanding what Kelsey did. That's exactly what I'm afraid of. His cardiologist told me point blank that a severe emotional shock could trigger another stroke. I am choosing between my father's right to know and my father's life. So please stop telling me to, just tell him. It's not simple. None of this is simple. I'll update after the conservatorship hearing. Wish me luck. Wish my dad luck. He deserves so much better than this.